The Cathedral High School has anchored the north end of downtown since Grover Cleveland was in the White House. Operating continuously since 1884, the ever-expanding campus has welcomed and educated more than 15,000 young people, while for much of its history, enrolling students from grades number 1 through number 12. Rupert Seidenbush in 1883 built the first church. It was named Holy Guardian Angels Cathedral Church, and along with it, a year or two later, came a school. In those days, even nowadays, almost all Catholic churches are associated with a school, or vice versa. The school is associated with the parish. And so from the very early days in 1884, there was always a school here. At first, it was quite informal, with students in a little bit like you might have seen on Little House on the Prairie, with kids of all ages in one room. Maybe the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, when it was time to do chores, would go home in the middle of the day, or maybe not come at all in May. But there were kids here. And then finally, when the actual school building got built, it became a bit more formal and a bit more formal and a bit more formal, until finally in 1902, grade number 9 was added. And then it was in 1905 that there was the first grade number 12 graduation, and since then 15,000 more. Cathedral's alumni have contributed enormously to the cultural and economic strength of St. Cloud and the surrounding area, with more than 70% of graduates choosing to live and work locally. The school's mission, inspired and informed by Catholic tradition, has always been to educate people while inspiring them to virtuous lives. Like nearly every other Catholic school in the area, dozens of them, Cathedral was founded and staffed by Benedictine women who, for the most part, volunteered their leadership, talent, industry, perseverance, and fortitude. The overwhelming participation in leadership, teaching, even the other chores of running a school, nursing and cooking and cleaning, primarily was the Benedictine women in this area. There were a few Franciscans, there were a few Notre Dames, and occasionally someone from another order, but because the Benedictine women are just 6 miles from here, 9 miles, I guess, they were the ones chosen to operate the school in terms of the leadership, the teaching, and over nearly 400 Benedictine women cycled in and out of Cathedral here from 1884 until the very last one, 7, 8 years ago, when Sister Claire finally retired. Gradually, lay people assumed responsibility for the leadership and teaching, while students and families shouldered the ever-increasing financial burden. Located on the corner of 6th Avenue and 3rd Street North, high on a hill overlooking the Mississippi River, and directly to the south of the Holy Angels Guardian Cathedral, the original 4-story school building itself housed all elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school students, until 30 years later, a standalone high school was constructed in 1914, one block kitty-corner to the northwest, tucked behind the church and the bishop's expansive home. That impressive new school building boasted a state-of-the-art auditorium with a large proscenium stage, which became the venue for decades of spellbinding theater productions, while also serving as home to the world-famous Girls Drum and Bugle Corps. And those programs, those activities, that sense of excellence, that sense of being the best you can be, was instilled from the very beginning, again, by Benedictine women and by the lay people who learned from those Benedictine women what it meant to teach in a Catholic school, what it meant to administer in a Catholic school. Cathedral was among the first schools in Minnesota to be independently accredited, and has sustained that continuous accreditation for nearly 100 years. On the eve of World War II, during the depths of the Great Depression, parishioners and donors dug deep to expand Cathedral's campus once again. this time with a spectacular new building almost twice the size of the 1914 facility. The new space included an interscholastic gymnasium with locker rooms, bleachers, and even spectator skyboxes. The Bellwether facility was an incubator for generations of girls and boys excelling in athletics. Visited with lots of alums who were here during World War II as students and then left for war. But Cathedral remained a school and not a place where the world touched it so much. Of course, in those days before social media, even before the preponderance of television and movie cameras and that sort of thing, you would get your news a week or two or three later as far as what had happened in the in the trenches of World War I or on the battlefield of World War II. And so those with whom I've visited that were part of the school during the war, during the big war, talk about Cathedral as being a place that just kept rolling along. A few kids left early. I know some of them. They left, lied about their age, went to war at age 16, and there were a few of those. Some were killed and never did come back. As the baby boomers came of age following World War II, and just like most schools across the country, enrollment at Cathedral exploded. By 1957, it was clear more space was needed, and quickly. A 3-story L-shaped building featuring all the modern amenities, with nearly more space than the first 3 buildings combined, was constructed immediately to the south of the 1938 building. Its modern library, kitchen, cafeteria, and classrooms relieved the other buildings on campus of overcrowding, while almost instantly bursting at its own seams. By the time of Vietnam, of course, by the later time of Vietnam in the late 60s and early 70s, that was one of the societal elements that caused Cathedral almost overnight to lose half of its enrollment. Went from 1,500 students to less than 700 almost overnight, 1970, 71, 72. And so here we are today, 2019, and it's been 135 years since our founding, 105 years since the first high school building, 80 years of educating leading doctors, engineers, and scientists using the same pre-World War II science labs. 62 years since the last expansion and improvement of classrooms. 52 years since the last construction project. 25 years since the renovation for the arts of the original Holy Guardian Angels Cathedral. And, sadly, due to neglect and lack of maintenance, 10 years since the last of 5 major destruction projects, resulting in the loss of the first convent, the first 2 school buildings, the Zardetti Mansion, and the John Broker House, wherein Rupert Seidenbush first humbly set up shop to start all of this. It's 2019, and we aim to build a new facility to serve students for the next century. It will feature a stunning visual panorama to the river, an impressive and secure front entrance, easy accessibility to the rest of campus, the first new science labs in 80 years, extensive facilities for the visual arts, a generous dedicated space for applied engineering, and a full embrace and celebration of technology. Right at the front door, a quiet chapel featuring windows preserved a quarter century ago during the renovation of Holy Guardian Angels Church. We're building. Cathedral is 135 years old, among the oldest and longest continuously operating entities in central Minnesota.
We are excited about this. Over the years since I've been here, of course, I always kept in mind something that I read in the Bible about how you don't want to build something unless you can complete it. And so I was always concerned that we would be able to handle such an expensive project and do it to completion. Well, we're here today to tell you that that's going to happen. It's going to be completed.
On the count of 3, I want you all to say, we're building. 1, 2, 3, we're building! Woo! Thank you all for being here for this historic moment.